Welcome to HCAM's Hopkinton's Hangout Hour. I'm your host, Jim Cousins, with my co-host, Bob Hamilton. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. Behind the scenes, as always, are Tom and Mike and Matt making everything happen. This first half hour, we're going to be talking with the Karp family about an interesting and important project that they have been working on. They are in the process of making their way over here. So until then, we're just going to send them a quick text.
We're here.
Oh.
We can't get our video.
Your video is off. You just need to go down to the bottom left and click on your video.
It won't come on.
Oh, no kidding. Ask to start video. Does that help?
Yeah,
Yes.
let me try that.
Okay.
And that didn't work either.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. It won't allow us.
See?
All right.
We were on earlier.
Yeah, I know. I saw you there. It was looking great. All right. So how about we just ask you to leave the meeting and come back into the meeting,
Okay.
Sounds
and
good.
perhaps it'll work then. All right. I'm wondering, Bob, if that's an ongoing situation where people who attend then go into the waiting room and then come back out have problems with their video restarting.
It's possible. Now, did you, are you the host on this now? So
I am.
you'll be able to allow them back in when they get in?
And it didn't take them long at all. All right. I just admitted them. So we'll have to see if it shows up with video.
There we go.
Yeah.
Wow. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right. Now, first, please, for anybody who doesn't know, go ahead and introduce yourselves.
I'm Emily Karp. I'm a junior at Hopkinton High School.
I'm Kelly Karp. Hi.
I'm Elizabeth Karp. I'm a freshman at the University of Tennessee.
And I'm Brian Karp, proud dad and husband.
All right. Well, welcome to you all, and thank you for taking this time. I will say that the reason that you're here is somebody told me about a very, very amazing project that you have started. And so with no further ado, you are making masks.
Yes.
So what I'm interested in, I'd like to hear the story about that, where the idea came from, how it came together, and then what you're actually doing.
You want to start? And then I can...
Yeah, sure. So it was kind of a group effort, but we saw that there was a need a few weeks ago when things started to ramp up. It seemed like face coverings were becoming a heavy, hot topic. So we reached out. I reached out to a couple of the Hopkinton like free sites and asked for some sewing machine donations because we didn't own a sewing machine.
Wait a minute. You didn't own a sewing machine?
No. We
Okay.
didn't own a sewing machine.
That's pretty amazing. Go ahead.
And we didn't know how to sew.
No,
either.
we didn't know how
We
to
didn't know how to sew
sew
either. And I asked Emily, I said, hey, if I get 2 machines, would you be interested? And Emily, I'm going to let her take it from there.
Yeah.
Emily just really got very excited about the project and really kind of took over, and it became really her baby from that point on. So Emily.
Yeah,
Oh.
I mean, when my mom brought up that people were really struggling to have face coverings, and she was like, would you like to make masks? I was all for it. I was really excited because it gave me the opportunity to still, in a way, communicate with my community in a time where that's very difficult right now. But also it helped me like give back to people, give back to my community, and give back to others that I don't necessarily always have the chance to give back to and to help out. So it's a very big passion of mine, like volunteer work and giving back and helping others when they need it. So I was very excited when my mom brought the idea to me.
So I just would like to start off by saying, without any hyperbole, without any exaggeration, I am floored. I cannot even believe where you have come, because I've got some pictures here of you in action. And for you to have started without even having a sewing machine in the house, without knowing how to sew, that just blows my mind. So let's just quickly show a couple pictures here. Let's see, that. All right. So there you are, looking like you've always had a sewing machine since you were little. And then there we go. There's a mask right there. 2 sewing machines right on the table, the 2 that you guys got.
Yes.
Oh, even Dad's getting in the action.
This is
So,
teaching me how to sew.
What?
I taught my dad how to sew.
Oh my gosh. All right. So just a very quick story, because this half hour is about you. My family, there's 5 in my family. And last week we said we should make some masks. Well, we didn't get very far. We got some designs and we made a little work. My daughter actually completed the one all the way and got it done. But I ended up with a mess. So
Yeah, the first couple that I made weren't so
all right.
so awesome.
Now, you got this cool idea. It's amazing the level of interest in volunteering and helping your community. How did you come across the design of the masks?
So my mom and we looked at Joann Fabrics because we were looking for materials to buy so we could get started. And they actually had a video posted online of a tutorial. So I followed that. And then from there, we've altered our design quite drastically. As you saw in the picture, we had bias tape on our first masks. And now we're using elastics that go around the ears.
So it's like, ho, 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 the family that doesn't even know how to sew, that doesn't even have a sewing machine. Now you're modifying the designs and making something original.
Yeah. So we've really worked hard to try and make something not only easier for us to make so that we can get more out, but something more accessible and more comfortable for others.
And something a little bit more durable. We found, a couple things is, when we watched the video initially, it was very time consuming, but it was also the ones that tie around the head. And we were just trying to think about the people that we were making them for. We wanted to make them for mostly for essential healthcare workers and hopefully senior citizens, and people that need to get them off and on fast, or people that might not have enough dexterity to tie them in the back. So we really wanted to modify it a little bit. And I think we've made a pretty durable product and something that's comfortable to wear.
Right. So you had this idea, you realized this need, you found some sewing machines, you taught yourself to sew, you taught your dad to sew. How did you find where these masks are going to go? And at the same time, was that frightening? Because I just have to imagine like you're approaching somebody saying, hey, I can make masks. And they're going to turn around and say, great, I'll take 10,000.
Yeah. So when we first started making them, we were giving them to Marty's had a bin that you could go and donate products to be given to hospitals and people in need. So I brought a bag of masks over and I dropped it off there. And then
we got reached out to by some local nurses and home health aides and people some essential workers, people that were working in grocery stores, whatever. Lots of people started reaching out to us, and then I thought, boy, we could really reach a lot of people if we post this on social media, which is what we did. And in a 4-hour time frame, we got a request for 300 masks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was very, very fast. People were just kept responding, both essential workers and regular, like everyday general public.
Yeah. So
that's amazing. Now,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And so, do you have a kind of process? How do you how do you select where these masks go? And also, too, we haven't talked about how many you actually make.
So for our process, my mom created a list online that we can both access. It has everybody's name, how many they want, whether they picked it up or not, and we go down the list, and if there are people asking for them sooner, we try and get to them sooner, but we really just try and go based off of priority. So people that might have doctor appointments, or people that might be essential workers or are working in the public. And then after priority is finished, we try and give it to people who have asked first.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been a real process of, just trying to track and keep track. And I've actually had some reorders. I've had people reach back out to us. So we're trying to manage it as best we can.
Mm-hmm. All
and-
right. Now, so this is a family deal?
Yes, it's
Yes.
a family deal for sure.
All right. So tell me what each of you four contribute. What do you do in this process?
Oh my gosh, we've done it all.
Yeah.
Really? So you just all kind of work together as a family, as a team.
Exactly.
Cutting the fabric, ironing the fabric,
Sewing.
sewing the fabric,
Cutting the elastics.
cutting the elastics.
There's
Metal inserts for the noses.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
there's-
putting metal pieces for the noses. We're twisting those so that
Yeah.
they're
That's
sturdy.
unbelievably important. We tried to make our masks. That was unbelievably important.
Yeah.
Yeah, we debated because we could definitely
Make them without.
make them without and get them out much faster.
Yeah.
But
We
we felt
found-
that was really important.
Yeah, we found that it gave more stability and more coverage.
Right. So
So is this just a 4-person?
It's
That's
a
what it
it's
is.
a
At the moment,
4-person
yes.
project, yeah, and since last Friday we've put out about
300.
about a little under 300.
And that's all 4 of you working together along the production line to get them out?
Yes, and keep in mind that Emily's still in school
So yeah.
and I'm still working full time.
And Elizabeth.
So you're doing a lot of online learning as well as sewing. Has the machine gotten in the way of the education?
No, I mean, I feel like on the days that I have school, I get my schoolwork. I'm done with school by 12:15. So I still have most of my day come down. So
And does it turn into a long day? Do you work late into the evening to try and meet the orders?
So yes, I mean, there have been times where I've worked really late at night. But I don't feel like I'm overworking myself. I'm trying not to get stressed out about trying to get everyone's orders out, because I have school and I have other things going on in my life, but I have had some late nights, and it's not always because I'm trying to get orders out. Sometimes I'm in the zone. I don't actually mind sitting at the sewing machine sometimes and just sewing.
So I'm sorry. I've your sister's name.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. So are you in college?
Yes.
So are you doing college remotely right now?
Yes, and we're approaching finals week. So
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Are you enjoying the mask making process as well, like Emily, getting to the
Yeah.
zone?
I definitely haven't done as much as the rest of my family. I don't want to take, credit for something that I haven't done as much, but I've definitely played a part. I've helped like with the ironing and, like when I can, I've driven Emily places to drop them off and deliver them to people. So I've done what I can with the amount of work I still have to do.
Mhm.
But I'm hoping when it's over, I'll be able to play a bigger role.
Oh, that's awesome. So I have a question for Brian because I know Emily will probably be kind of shy to answer this, but when she was first talking about why she was doing this, she was kind of talking about how she looks for ways to give back to her community.
Yeah.
And I think that is a wonderful thing. And I'm wondering, Brian, what did you do right in raising your children? How did you encourage this environment?
Well, I mean, I'd like to say, I encourage the whole giving back to the community by my volunteerism with the community. When I ran for planning board, zoning advisory committee, but Kelly has also been on several committees, giving back to the community for the town. And I'm glad to see that they understand the importance of volunteering your time and giving back. And I'll say, this project is really a lot of it's a family project, but it's really about Emily. But Elizabeth too. She's at the University of Tennessee. The volunteers. It's all about volunteerism and giving back.
Yeah, you know what? It's really awesome. And it's awesome that you say that, because even though like when one person takes it on, you can tell a family has to support all aspects of this going
Yeah.
on. So, and
Yeah.
it's, I just think that's awesome. This is the first time in a while that all the members of my family are back under one roof too. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Yeah, you don't have to elaborate.
Yep. Now, what about materials? What are you doing for raw supplies?
So we've been looking at Joann Fabrics and Walmart and just job lots. We've been kind of just looking everywhere to see if stores have fabric.
Mhm.
Well, especially the cotton fabric, because that's most breathable. And a lot of stores are out of stock or running very low.
Yeah.
Like the other day, we had ordered 18 yards of fabric and only got
we got 7 of the
7
18.
yards.
But I do want to say, I think it's really important to acknowledge we have been very fortunate. This community's been really supportive. We've gotten a lot of donations as far
That's
as
what I was going to ask about.
Yeah, we've gotten, we've gotten some monetary donations, which have been just fabulous and helped us, support the project. But we've also gotten some material donations, which have been really great. We've gotten fabric, we've gotten elastics, thread. So it's been
the sewing machines.
So it's been really, without those donations, we could have never.
Yeah, we couldn't have made as much as we have or even done what we've done.
Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'd like to play the video that you made.
Sure.
And kind of we'll see the process of the mask that you made. Now, is this video including your design changes, or is this shot before you changed the design?
This is including some of the design changes. Since then, we've modified slightly,
but it's mostly
it's mostly
okay.
the same design.
And who produced the video?
So my dad shot it.
Okay.
And then Emily
I edited it and put it together.
Wow, nice job. You should be in HHS TV once we're back. All right. I'm gonna click this here. And then I'll see you right after this. right. That was awesome. Great job. I like the use of fast motion too. It was really good.
Yeah, I wanted to make sure that everyone saw everything that I was doing, because
Uh-huh.
if they don't know how to sew like I don't, I know that it was very helpful to see
Yes.
how to do
Yeah,
things.
and also like so you showed everything really well, and by speeding it up sometimes it didn't turn into a 10-minute video.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. One question I have, what is interfacing?
Interfacing, I'm not actually sure what it is.
So interfacing, it's like it adds a little stiffness to the product, just to give it a little bit of body and hold its shape a little bit.
And
Okay.
it adds another layer of protection.
Mhm.
It just, we were using to help give it the shape, but also to add that third layer of protection, just to try and increase.
And that's one
The-
thing we did modify in that video. You'll see that we used interfacing and then a heat and bond.
Yep.
We changed that. We actually are now using it's a what do they call it? It's an interface that has a little bit of a sticky back on the back of it, but it's
okay.
one product. Yeah.
So one product instead of two?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And are these machine washable or how do you clean them?
So we were recommending a hand wash and a hand dry.
Air dry.
Excuse me, hand wash and an air dry. We've been reading online that really the best way to wash a mask is in the washing machine and a dryer, because that'll, I guess the high temperatures will make it a little bit more clean.
Mhm.
So I think I think from a durability standpoint, they should withstand that, but we were recommending a hand wash.
Okay.
We had an issue early on with the masks that had the interfacing when we did throw them in the bias tape rather.
When we throw
Okay.
it in the wash and the
When it went
dryer.
in the washer and the dryer, the bias tape would get all knotted. So
Oh, I see.
with the elastics, we don't have that issue, but just to make sure that everything kept its shape, we were recommending the hand washing, but you can machine wash.
Yeah,
and
you
dry.
can machine wash.
Okay. Well, we got a question coming up that somebody posted on social media, but before I get to that, quick question. Why did you make this video?
The tutorial video.
Yeah.
So I was making it because we were having people kind of. Well, I know that there was a woman that reached out to my mom. She was very excited that we were doing this and wanted to actually do it with her daughter as well.
Yeah.
And she was asking if we had a video. We've had other people ask if we've had a video, because they want to start doing them as well. And so with making the video, I was hoping just to give the people an opportunity to make their own if they wanted to, and help spread the
wealth, I guess. We're also hoping that we could get others to assist us.
Yeah.
We're hoping to continue this project. We're hoping to make another 300 more or plus. And with just the four of us, it's definitely been a lot of work, and we would love for other people to join in and assist us with the project.
Okay, so actually, before I wrap this up, because our time runs short, go ahead, Tom. What do you got?
All right. So our good friend Amy Ritter Bush said she had trouble getting her sewing machine to go through the fabric once it was folded, and it was very thick to get the needle through. She wants to know if you bought a special attachment or if you have any tips for that.
So we definitely had a lot of trouble with that. And it took us a while to realize, because we didn't know how to use the sewing machines. I mean, we read the instructions, but none of us are professional sewers. So we bought thicker needles.
We bought a little bit larger needles. We also changed the tension on the machine.
I just didn't know if you knew what size the needle was.
The needle was it's an 80-12.
We switched the tension and we switched the stitch length as well. And we noticed that helped kind of move it along faster. We also had some trouble with one of our feeds where it was really worn down, so it wasn't moving the fabric along, which might also be an issue. If the feed's worn down, it's not gonna move the fabric through.
Okay. All right. This has been really, really, really interesting, and it just so exciting to see what you guys are doing. Now,
Thank you
last
so much.
question. If people are watching this and saying they would like to get involved, they would like to contribute to help you buy supplies, they would like to lend their sewing machine, they would like to just connect, what's the best way?
I'll give you my, they can reach out to me via email. Can I give you my email?
Yes,
It's-
please.
It's Kelly W. Karp. So KELLYWKARP @gmail.com.
Okay. All right. So
and-
I'm also going to put that in the end credits too.
Yeah, that'd
Okay.
be great.
Kelly WKARP
That's
at
correct.
gmail.com.
Yes.
All
yeah,
right.
that'd
So
be
people
great.
can check that out there too. All right. Well, listen, I hope that we can talk to you again soon and see what's going on. Last question. What do you guys do for fun when you're hanging out?
We've watched movies. We've gone out on a lot of walks
Mm-hmm.
when the weather's nice. Listening to music. We put on the Alexa and turn on some music.
Jigsaw puzzles.
Jigsaw
Yeah.
puzzles. There's been a lot of cooking and baking. Just
Lots
trying to
Lots of
keep
cooking
us
and baking.
trying to keep ourselves busy.
All right. That's awesome. Thank you for the work that you're doing for our community. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
All
Thank
right.
you so
Thanks,
much.
Jim. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Okay, that was really interesting. And now we are going to welcome Tom Nappy back, who will be heading up this second half hour. Take it away, Tom.
Thanks, Jim. All right, I'm Tom Nappy, and joining us now, we're going to have the Hopkinton High School Athletic Director, Rich Cormier. We'll just let Rich get situated. There he is. Rich, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. Can't complain. Happy Patriots Day.
Yeah, same to you.
Certainly not the typical Patriots Day we're all used to.
Unfortunately not.
So how are you doing, and what are some of the things that you've been doing to keep yourself occupied during this time?
I think it's similar for a lot of people. It's a challenge. Like everybody, I think I'd much prefer the normalcy of being at work, being out in the fields in the afternoon with our teams, having our students have the opportunity to compete, having our seniors have that final chance to compete and finish their school years, the way we all did. And it's really unfortunate, and then you add in the realities of being home, right? And working from home. My wife and I are both working from home. We also have 2 first graders, trying to get them into their Zoom classes, do our Zoom meetings. There's times where all 4 of us are on a Zoom call at the same exact time. So certainly having young kids at home makes this a challenge for sure. But, just trying to be ready, in the hopes that we do go back. So that we have a schedule and that we have everything ready to go for our athletes so we can hit the ground running if and when we do return.
Absolutely. And for those that don't know, this is your first year as the Hopkinton High School Athletic Director.
Mm-hmm.
For those that may not know you too well, could you talk about your background a bit and your road to becoming the athletic director at Hopkinton High School?
Sure. Right after I finished grad school, I entered the education profession. I was a teacher at Norwood High School, and I was at Norwood High School for 12 years. I also served as the head basketball coach there for 9 years, and I also coached volleyball and baseball there as well. And then what turned out to be my last 2 years at Norwood, I was also a dean of students, which is sort of like a vice principal situation where you do the discipline hearings, but I was also the class advisor. So it was kind of a mishmash of roles. I really enjoyed that, and it kind of gave me a little bit of a look into the administrative side of schools. And then after the senior class in 2016 graduated from Norwood, I either would have recycled back with the freshmen, or it seemed like a good opportunity to pursue, a different, job within the education field. And I was fortunate to be hired at Foxborough, where I served as the athletic director there for 3 years. And then when this job opened up over the summer, again, it was just a great opportunity for me to be a little bit closer to home. My wife also is a teacher at Hopkinton High School. So from a family standpoint, as well as a professional standpoint, it was a great opportunity. Again, I was, fortunate to get the job and kind of come in late. I started in very late August. The fall season had already started. It's certainly been an eventful year one in Hopkinton.
Well, Rich, I think you've done a great job in your first year as Hopkinton athletic director, especially considering in your first year, you had to transform the entire fall schedule pretty much to an all afternoon schedule because of the triple E mosquito threat.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're trying to make a schedule through a virus pandemic. You've had to deal with quite a bit in your first year at Hopkinton.
It's been an interesting year. I mean, obviously, so many communities were in the same situation with Triple E and trying to balance that. We all had schedules that involved night games, and we all had to adjust, on the fly. And I have to say, the students, the coaches, the community were all very understanding. It was really out of our hands, and it was really just to make sure that everyone was safe, out on our fields. And then you throw a pandemic into the mix, at the end of the winter into the spring season. And again, it's a situation that we're all trying to, adjust to. I keep telling my 7-year-olds, this is something I've never experienced in my life. I don't think many people, unless they were alive in 1918 for the Spanish flu, have really lived through something of this magnitude. So, you just try to make the best out of the situation.
Right. I think we're all just kind of learning as we go here. How much work have you done on the schedule during this? Have you had to make a lot of changes, and what's the current TVL season looking like?
Yeah, so we've obviously had to rip everything up that we started with. That's all gone, and then we kind of were waiting to see. Right? The date has been sort of a moving target. We were out for a week. Then that got pushed to April 6th. I believe it was the 6th, and then now our current date is May 4th. And who knows if that's going to hold or not. So we are currently slated to start May 4th. We have a schedule for the TVL, which involves going once around. So we're going to play every TVL school once. Now, not every TVL school has every single sport. So, for instance, baseball would have 11 games right now, but another sport like boys tennis only had 9. So we were able to actually pick up a second match with Dover Sherborne. So we're going to play Dover Sherborne twice to make sure boys tennis had at least 10 matches, things like that. So we have a rough schedule in place, and hopefully we get to play it.
And is there any talks about, I know they're canceling the regional tournament, or they're canceling the state tournament. As far as I've heard, is there any talks in doing any kind of tournament? I understand there might be the sectionals still possibly.
So under the current situation, again, this is all on the assumption that we return to school on May 4th. The MIAA had originally said if we started past April 27th, there would be no state tournament, at least nothing sanctioned by the MIAA. They have since reversed course on that. And now there is going to be, as you mentioned, a semblance of a state tournament, but it would only be through the equivalent of a sectional final. So the furthest a team could go would be as a sectional champion. And that would take us all the way to the weekend of June 27th.
I'm sure the players will take just about anything at this point.
Absolutely. I agree. I think everyone's just looking to get out there and be with their teammates for one last chance.
Has the MIAA reached out to the athletic directors to get their input at all? What have some of your interactions been like with them?
Not directly. So a lot of times the way that it works with the MIAA is we have liaisons or district representatives on all these committees. And the two committees that are doing most of the work right now are the Tournament Management Committee and the Board of Directors. So our particular District C representatives from those committees has reached out to us for feedback and just to see what we're thinking as leagues, what everyone has sort of an appetite for. So there's been some communication, but it's really been through our District C reps who then take that to hopefully represent what we as a district would like. And District C is pretty large. It's not just the Tri-Valley League. It's actually most of the South. It's not the entire South. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, it's the southeastern Massachusetts is District C.
So what has your schedule been like? as athletic director? I know you've probably had to change the schedule a few different times. What are some of the things that you've been doing? I know today you were dropping off signs. Maybe you could talk about that as well.
Yeah, so I mean, believe it or not, there's still a lot to be done in terms of just trying to prepare and be ready. So as I already mentioned, we have been prepping for the hopes of having a spring season and rearranging everything and making sure we have officials assigned. We meet as a league once a week, just to make sure we're all on the same page. I've had a lot of just administrative staff meetings with the high school staff and high school administration and really the administration district wide. One of the things that we did today, which was awesome, was we delivered yard signs, like congratulations, class of 2020 yard signs to the entire senior class. And it was a surprise. They didn't know it was coming. So we broke up the senior class into about 7 different groups. We each took a group and drove around town, planted them in their yards and drove away. It was a little bit weird to do that, but hopefully people will be excited to see the signs. The senior class, across the country is sort of getting shortchanged here. And I think everybody feels for them. Obviously there's larger things going on. People are dying, people are losing their jobs, being furloughed from their jobs. But I think anyone that, particularly works in schools has a real soft spot for the seniors and, what they're missing out on in these final months. So this was just something really, really small that the school was able to do, hopefully bring a little bit of a smile to the students' faces. And then as you mentioned, just honestly, just trying to, at this time of the year, I'd be doing this one way or the other, which is getting ready for next year. So we're doing a lot of fall scheduling, winter scheduling, believe it or not. Just trying to get ahead. You're always trying to get, a couple seasons ahead with their scheduling and things of that nature. So still somehow staying very, very busy. It's weird not being out in the fields in the afternoon, but somehow there's still plenty of work to be done.
Rich, that's awesome. And you did mention the fields, and will the field work continue now, especially now that they're going to get the rest? But what is the school's plan as far as maintaining the natural fields? Now, of course, we got nothing to do with, fields 4 through 7 or 4, 5, and 6 there. Yeah.
So Tim Person, the director of building and grounds, and I, we've been in touch throughout this entire process. Again, as the dates keep changing, you don't want to prep the fields too early. So we know the new date is May 4th. So actually not this week, but next week, there's a company scheduled to come in and do the typical work that we do on particularly fields 2 and 6. The baseball and softball fields, to make sure that those are ready to go. And then a lot of the work is actually done by the maintenance staff on hand in terms of, mowing the lawn, grooming the field, lining the fields, so that's all stuff that we'll do once we know for sure that we're coming back. But there is a good amount of work that goes into getting those fields ready every year. And a company comes in and weeds them out and, gets them ready to go. So we're still planning on doing that. But we've just kept pushing it back, which is probably a good thing considering we just got a couple inches of snow.
Yeah, that was fun waking up to going out there shoveling 8 in the morning. That was wonderful. So again, field 6, the Lauren Anderson field, how's the renovations coming? I see that the scoreboard was just refurbished.
Yeah, so there's a lot of renovations that are going into the Lauren Anderson field, as I'm sure you guys are aware of the project and the fundraising that was done. And again, that's really unfortunate that we may not have the opportunity to officially dedicate that field, this year. We were scheduled to dedicate that field on May 1st, which, obviously is not going to happen on May 1st. And then some of the construction around the dugouts and some of the other things has been delayed as well because of shipping delays and things like that due to the coronavirus. So, like anything else, that's not immune to being touched by our current situation with the COVID-19 pandemic. So, hopefully that will all get, totally finalized this spring. And then whether it's this spring or next spring, we'll have a nice dedication for that field and all the hard work that went into raising that money and making it into a really, really beautiful field.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, that was sort of like one of the last fields to be touched. I mean, a lot of fields took the back door when 4 and 5 got turned to turf. And of course, the field 2, the work that went there. I mean, I feel like I'm out in Baltimore with that nice brick backstop and everything. The fields have really come a long way, and it's nice to see that the schedule is still going to be on schedule, getting them done, even though they may not be used.
Yeah, that's the plan, because again, even if, it's sometime this summer when those fields could be used again, because although they're primarily used by the high school teams, they're also used by the town. Field 2 is actually, I believe, I don't want to misspeak, but I believe it's the only full-size grass baseball field in town. So even if, let's say the town baseball was to push their season into July or August, they would also need a field to play in as
Right.
well. So, and you don't want to get those fields too far behind, because then the work to
Sure.
get them back to where they need to be would be even greater.
Right. And you still have that baseball field down at 10? Is that still there?
You down to 12.
12. I'm sorry.
So
12. Yeah.
one of our actual plans going into the season was to get field 12 back up and playable, more so for practice. We probably wouldn't play a
Right.
game there, not yet. It would take a little bit even more work to get it ready for a game. But with 4 baseball teams between varsity, JV, freshmen, and the middle school team, we really need another baseball field.
Sure.
Now that the turf field is also shared by both lacrosse programs, it's really only in some ways like a half of a field on days that lacrosse has a game.
Right.
So that was a big plan, is we were going to get field 12 ready for practice. And that's still the plan, is to get field 12 ready for practice this year. But again, we're kind of waiting to see if we're truly going to be back on May 4th.
Well, that's outstanding. Now, my last question I have, and I'll give it back to Tom with his, is would it be something to consider, like pro sports is doing, having games without the parents and the spectators? Was that something that could be considered just to get the games in?
Yeah, I think there's, to be honest, I think nothing's off the table. We're obviously not at the realm of professional sports in terms of the money and the entertainment that goes into that. But I think the underlying goal is just to get the students out there participating and playing and being with one another. So I think if that was something that had to be part of the equation, then people would be willing to do it. And then we get to rely on you guys to help broadcast that home to everybody. But I think it's really just a wait and see between, the directives we get from the governor, from our local health officials, just seeing what's going to be allowed and what's not going to be allowed. And who knows, I hope not, but this could even linger into next fall. So it's something that we're looking at all possible contingencies. The ADs in our league have already started to talk about what this might look like in the fall. And we don't know. Those answers aren't really ours to give. But we try to be ready to make sure that we can adjust as best we can to, again, the ultimate goal is to give the kids the best experience possible. And right now, I think our coaches are still trying to do that, believe it or not. I think a lot of our coaches are doing great things, of course, virtually, but they're doing Zoom sessions and Google Classroom with their teams. They're trying to give them things that they could do at home to stay in shape and to improve. I'll give you one example. I know Coach Simos, our baseball coach, on Friday night did a college like workshop. Basically, any players and parents that were interested in sort of the college process and how that would look for baseball, especially now for these juniors who are potentially, have a very small window or no window to show what they can do this spring. What's that going to look like for them? So I think our coaches are really being creative to trying to stay in touch with their teams, because they miss this as much as anyone. They miss this as much, if not more, than the students.
And I think that's the tough thing too, because you got kids that have a lot of talent, but maybe haven't gotten to their peak yet. And this year they'd be at their peak, and they don't really have the opportunity to show that talent right now. Has there been any talks about pushing the season into July or August? I know you mentioned that earlier.
So there hasn't been yet. That is a tricky thing because it's a contractual piece. So since the coaching salaries are tied to teachers' contracts, and you typically don't go into the summer, usually the end of June is the deadline for any sort of teaching contract. And then you start the new sort of fiscal year and the new contractual year on July 1. So I think there'd be a lot of pieces that would have to be addressed before we could go into the summer. Again, under the circumstances, I think coaches honestly would be more than happy to do that, to give their students a chance to compete. I think the students as well. I mean, obviously we could run into some vacation issues, but again, I don't know who's traveling right now under these circumstances. So again, I don't think anything's really off the table, but a lot of it's going to come down to what sort of guidance we have. And part of me thinks if they're going to shut down schools, and I don't know if they will, but obviously many states around our country have shut down schools for the rest of the year. I think the idea would be that they'd be shut down till September to really give that full amount of time so that everyone can return to whatever normal is going to be now come September. So I don't know that the summer would be a possibility if in fact we were shut down for the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty much a wait and see situation at this point. Have you heard from any of the athletes, and have they shared any of their reactions? What's going on with you, or kept up with you?
So I've spoken to a few of them via email. I did have a Zoom with the spring captains about a week and a half ago, just to kind of answer any questions that they had. That was when we first found out that we were going to be pushed to May 4th and that the season would be extended. I'm looking to do another one once we get a little bit more information. So I'm hoping to do another one probably sometime this week with the spring captains, just to give them an update on where we stand, answer any questions that they might have. Also trying to, this time of the year, we typically, I know D King did this and I did it when I was in Foxborough as well. We would typically have a recognition breakfast for all our athletes that are playing collegiately. And that's something that we're also not able to do under the circumstances. So in the next coming days, I'm going to start recognizing one of our student athletes a day who's going on to the next level. So I've been communicating with the students to try to get the information I need to push that out via social media. So that's just another nice little thing we can do to try to recognize our seniors, since we probably won't be able to have the formal breakfast that we typically would.
Right. Anything you could do to recognize them. They certainly got a raw deal this year. So with the threat of the virus, has there been any changes or thought into changes as far as like heavier equipment sanitation or any cleaning measures?
Yeah, so we have talked about that. I've been in touch with our athletic trainer, and there's some simple things that you can do. And then there's obviously more broad term thing that we're going to need to potentially order. If and when we're allowed to come back, we may need to use masks, things like that we haven't quite purchased those equipment yet. But obviously our trainer is in close contact with these students. So that's something that we got to be careful of when we do return. But then some of the more simple things is just making sure they're not sharing water bottles. Make sure we're using disposable cups, things like that, so to help mitigate any transmission of the disease between one another. Make sure they're not sharing mouth guards, which is gross to begin with. Things like that. So there's some small things that we can make sure that the students are doing that they should be doing anyway. And then certainly the building and grounds has done a great job sanitizing all of our facilities and buildings, and that's just going to be something that's going to be a continual upkeep now under these circumstances.
With the turf fields, is there sanitary measures for those actual fields as well? Is that something that you have to clean often?
We do. So we have a regular schedule through our maintenance department on cleaning the turf because obviously it's different. There's no soil. Things don't just go into the soil. So we do actually have a system of disinfecting the turf that we do on a regular schedule.
Ah, interesting. So switching gears a bit, from a professional sports perspective, you have baseball, who's talked about sending all the players to Arizona and pretty much quarantining them and sending them straight from the game to their hotels, and obviously playing with no fans. And then you have basketball and hockey, who have talked about relatively similar circumstances. As a professional sports fan, does that make sense to you? And would you want to see professional sports with no fans?
I guess I can't imagine it without fans. Let's face it, professional sports is an entertainment business. So I mean, there'd certainly still be plenty of people watching via TV, but it would be hard to imagine playing without fans. I think the baseball one that you mentioned is the most far-fetched to me. I mean, I'd love to see the Red Sox like so many other people. But I think under those circumstances, I'm not sure really what you'd be seeing. I mean, I heard that they'd be sitting they wouldn't even be using the dugouts. They'd be in the stands 6 feet apart from one another. They'd have to then go straight to their hotel. I'm not even sure you'd really be getting a high quality product under those, circumstances. Certainly the fan of me would love to see sports come back. I've seen plenty of creative ideas, almost like a March Madness style playoff for the NBA, where everybody makes it, and then you do single elimination until you get to a certain point. I know the NHL is talking about this as well. So, I mean, I think if it gets to a point where it's safe to do so, it would be really cool to see maybe something different when it comes to the NHL and NBA playoffs, so they can at least wrap up those seasons. Um, Baseball, where they haven't even started yet, I think that one's a little bit trickier if they're really trying to potentially play an entire season under those circumstances. I almost think they're better off waiting to see if they can get in a condensed season, maybe even play double headers, whatever they need to. But I'd prefer that they wait and play under more traditional circumstances.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing them without the fans, because I look at it like anytime I watch the Winter Classic being held in a football stadium or a baseball uh, stadium, it's the fans are just so further away, and it just from the television point of view, and it takes a little getting used to, but yeah, I can get used to it. I can see that, but just think about the game itself. How you gonna say 6 feet away when you're covering the bag? Keeping the keeping the runner from taking a lead. I mean, or football where it's all full contact. In hockey, they hit a little in hockey. They get kind of close. What? How do you keep? How can you keep that up? I don't understand that.
Yeah, again, I don't. If you don't have fans there, I don't think in the case of some sports it would make a big deal. I was thinking more with baseball, the whole scenario that they're talking about with the whole teams having their hotels and using these fields and not even be allowed to sit in the dugout together. I'd just be curious if the product on the field would even be worth it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you're even hearing from some of these pro athletes, and it's understandable. They're not able to do much either. Their facilities, their team facilities are closed. Yes, I'm sure many of them have gyms at their house and things like that. I'm sure you heard the story. Jason Tatum doesn't have a basketball hoop, so he hasn't shot a basketball. Since these closures began. So even though they're professional athletes, they're still going to need almost like a mini preseason.
Oh, absolutely.
To get back up into any kind of playing shape and rhythm and things like that. So it would be really interesting to see how it impacts the performance out there on the field where these guys haven't had the treatment and the access to their facilities that they normally would have year round.
I mean, they charter their own planes anyway, so they're not flying with the public. They stay in hotels when they're traveling anyways. Precautions can be made ahead of time. Yeah, Major League will take a hit because they're not getting the ticket, they're not getting the concessions and so forth. But all right, guys, you made millions off of us for all these years. Give us one season. Try to do something. Show you care. There's plenty of small businesses out there that are staying open just to help in the situation, not to make money. So why can't they do that too? I just keep the fans out. I get that because they're coming from all angles, but you guys keep control over your team. That's it.
Right. That's my thought too. Obviously, no fans. It would certainly be tough for the players to be away from their families for all those years. But if there's a way to get some kind of presentable product to the field, I think the TV ratings would be outstanding, number one, and people would be really excited because as sports fans, we're all missing it.
That's it.
Yeah, and again, I would love to see some baseball. I almost think they're better off waiting a little bit to see if they can do a more traditional. When I say traditional, I don't think we're going to see fans in the stands, but just a little bit more of a traditional product than just putting everyone in Arizona. But yeah, I mean, I would love to see something out there for sure.
It's been fun for a while watching the '72 Stanley Cup final over again, but then that was followed by 2 Blackhawks Stanley Cups in a row. It's like, okay, enough. Bring me back live sports.
Yeah.
Well, as everything else right now, it'll be a wait and see situation, but we certainly hope that things will get relatively normal soon. So we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best. So just a couple of random questions. Well, we only got a minute left. So I'm curious, Rich, do you have any favorite sports movies or favorite sports documentaries? I know they had the Michael Jordan one on last night on ESPN. That was pretty good.
I mean, like I think most people, there's certainly some old school ones that I think are just, I can watch over and over again. I could watch Hoosiers, over and over again, and it just doesn't get old for me. I did watch the Michael Jordan documentary last night. I was curious if it could live up to the hype. Obviously, growing up in the 80s and 90s, Jordan was was beyond a superstar. He was at that next level, and I really enjoyed the first 2 episodes. So I'm looking forward to that every Sunday night. I think, like a lot of people, the NFL draft will probably get more ratings than it ever has, just because people
I'll even watch it.
just because people are looking for something to do with sports. But and I think that with my own kids, they miss playing their sports. They're only 7 years old, but they play baseball, they play soccer. They do different things, and they're missing it. So we actually watched Little Giants with my 2 kids the other day.
Excellent. Well, thanks a lot, Rich. We appreciate it. We're getting to the end.
Yeah, we're getting to the end. Rich, thanks so much for joining us. We'll certainly
thanks for having
talk
me.
to you again sometime soon. Hopefully we'll see sports back very soon. But for Mike Tarosian and the rest of us at HCAM, I'm Tom Nappy. Thanks for watching the Hopkinton Hangout Hour. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Thanks, guys. Be well.